Do you remember what you wanted to be as a child? Do you remember all the dreams you had about your future? Do you remember the acts you did for your friends and family? And do you perhaps remember the drawings you did of the things that you love? Take a second and think about what it is that you wanted to be. And I'll give you these 5 seconds to do so. My sister wanted to be a cartoonist, and my other sister wanted to be Sailor Moon. Now, I don't know what a teenage superhero fighting the villains of the universe have anything to do with society's notion about success. But what I do know, it was about instinct and the fact that we were doing it for our own feelings and not what anyone expected from us, which is the definition of, I think, being a child in a way. And so why I speak about this today is because I'm someone who has always followed my instinct. Very much so that I'm probably known as quite a weirdo. If you ask me to count till 10, I count in random sequences like 5, 3, 2, 8, 1, 9, 10. And from age, as I could pick up a pen, till 12, I drew upside down. And when I could first start writing, I would write back to front. So clearly I'm someone who's always gone by my feelings and done what I wanted to do. And since I can remember, I've been someone who's been obsessed with communicating my life through the medium of art. In fact, I could only communicate through art because I was a very socially awkward kid. In primary school, I didn't have any friends because I was drawing all the time. And when I would draw, people would walk past, classmates, one would come by, the other would come by, and then all of a sudden they would all be surrounding me. Because if you think about it, there's a performer on the street. It's always the kids that stop and stare because they're the curious ones, and that's what makes it so special. That's their strength, actually. When I was 7, I decided I wanted to be a couturier, an haute couturier. So for those who may not be well versed in fashion, there is certain levels in fashion. There is fast fashion Zara, there's mid-level fashion Sandro, there's high fashion Chanel, then there's couture, which is a high fashion brand that make custom-made pieces for, let's say, celebrities on red carpets. At 13, I had my first job in London in a high fashion label, and I made a dress which sold out worldwide with this feedback, which was positive. I then at 15 started my own fashion label, and by the time I was 16, I opened my own boutique. And the boutique was important. It was in between Chanel and Valentino in Dubai. And I was very proud of my accomplishments, and I had clients. And so I was making money, and I became a teenage entrepreneur. What happened that year, because I was in commerce and because it was, being received somewhat well, and though I was burnt out, to be honest, what happened was I got the Guinness World Record as the world's youngest couturier, taken away from Yves Saint Laurent at 21 when I was 16. And all of a sudden, I became this idea of youth and success. And so society placed me as a kind of romanticized idea of conviction in youth. And so I became somewhat of an idea rather than a human being. And so what happened was I started becoming alienated towards myself and disassociated to my feelings because I did not know if people liked my work because of my actual artistic value, or if they liked my work because of what I stood for. Because even for myself as a teenager, I was unaware of who I was. I did not really know what I stood for in a way, because all teenagers are insecure. So I was like, why am I getting this validation? So I decided, because I was thinking, who is it that controls me, and how can I go back to being the kid with a pen, which is my biggest strength? How can I go back to having that level of strength and that level of, integrity to my own instinct? And that was to let everything go. So I basically closed my shop. I stopped my business. I put it on pause. I dropped out of high school, and I got into a pre-master's in Paris. And I asked myself for the first time, what has value to me? And the answer was mastering my craft. So what I did was I delved myself into the history and the culture, the techniques of art, fashion, music, architecture, film, name it. And in that process, I increased my level of self-awareness and sense of self, which is critical for a creative, because if you don't have a sense of identity, then you cannot take what's outside in the world, an inspiration, bring it back to your own and create something unique. You need to have the two levels, your soul and then something of inspiration to create something which is unique and new. Over time, I understood that actually my success does not belong to society, but only to myself. And in this process, I realized that fame and success have nothing to do with each other. Because as I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, my idea became around fame, not real success, and I was warped, and therefore I became disassociated. So, today, I relaunched my brand, and I'm doing very well, and I feel empowered because I took control and the decision to relaunch what I wanted to do, and now I have the power to, change the system that I work in and control and create the new zeitgeist and work around it. And the thing I wanted to say is also, when we're discussing success and age, you have examples like Momofuku Ando, for example, at 48 invented the instant ramen, which saved the lives of many university students, including myself. You have Vera Wang and Christian Dior, who started their fashion brands in their 40s. You have Julia Child, who wrote her first cookbook introducing French cuisine in the American system and, revolutionizing cuisine in itself in the US when she was 60. So does their age take away from their success? I don't think so. But your perception of what fame and success is can take away from their success. So it's all about how you see things and how you see your own level of self-development. So the reason I think that our current culture feels this way is because of, in many ways, social media. So you have the idea of social media is warping our idea of time and success, because we do not see the failures of other people, we only see their success. We do not see the 100 selfies that a beauty influencer will take, edit, cut down, and then post to her 200 million followers and have numerous millions of people questioning their own beauty standard. You do not see the work that goes behind the entrepreneur who will post his beautiful new, Rolls Royce, but you don't see all of the hard work that goes behind for him to get to that point. And so the point here is that we can't compare ourselves to these people, and success is not quick. Success takes a lot of time. And I'm also a culprit, by the way, because I have days where I don't sleep for 3 days in a row, working endlessly, stressed, losing 5 kilos in a week, being frightened that over one small deadline I will lose my whole career. But I'm trying to change and show my process and to be a bit more natural with the people that follow my work, because I think it's important. I think showing my vulnerability is something which is the next step towards evolving both as a human being for society and even as a creative and a brand, because we as in the fashion industry are becoming more and more transparent because the world is becoming more and more false in a sense. So in many ways why I chose to do this is because I want to honor my process and I want to honor the humanity behind my work. I want to show more of my vulnerabilities. The age society expects you to succeed becomes younger and younger, and the time we have to practice to fail becomes shorter and shorter. So chasing fame rather than fulfillment is becoming a very, very prominent thing today. And I have to say that fulfillment is what's going to give you your ultimate sense of success. And it has nothing to do with fame, and it's okay to take your time. In conclusion, I think that one should never ever put their dreams on hold, because it's easy to put your dreams on hold because of the fear of failure. It really is. However, in a world of instant gratification, I think that there's a lot of time invested in big accomplishments. When you think about it, the 30 seconds that you find out that you got into your university, that success started at your day one of school. When you perhaps finished your marathon, that started for months and weeks of preparation. So, you have to understand that all of this easy success is never instant. It takes time and it takes development. And your true potential to achieve great things will never be lost to time. It actually relies on time, and this is very crucial for young people to understand. Because I'm someone who had a clock on my head since I was like 7. So, I have an example. A friend of mine, he, in his late 40s, a brilliant friend of mine, in his late 40s, he was a well-accomplished businessman that owned a few buildings in Paris. And he was a migrant when he was younger, and he had to rely on peanuts his whole life, actually, his whole younger years to survive. And he built himself up really well. But he always had this itch, and the itch was that he had this medical power, this way to heal people, in a sense. And so he actually, after being quite comfortable financially with his jobs, quit his job in his late 40s, and he went into medical studies and studied for 10 years. And then, he got out of the medical studies, and now actually he's in his 60s, and in his 50s he became well versed in his field, and he actually became quite a leader in his specific niche within the medical field. And now he's quite renowned in his practice. And he did this because he really went back to what he felt when he was younger, the true potential that he had, and put the idea of money and success aside because that was his true potential. And now he's incredibly happy and incredibly wise. and he has a group of people that rely on his sense of liveliness because of this. And so, before I go, I'd like to ask you something. And what I'd like to ask you is to close your eyes, and I'd like you to think about what your dream life would be. So now that you've thought about it, the possibility of failure reaching this dream can be very, very large. But I do think what you owe in here, well, actually, what you have in here, you owe in here, and you must manifest here. Because, in many ways, you owe it to the inner child within to achieve these dreams that you had, because they are from the purest form, and they are what made you who you are today, even though you might have forgotten that over the stretch of time, and we all go through our own traumas as adults. But that's the purest form, the sense of life you had as a child. And so I think you owe it to yourself to follow through with it and try to manifest it out here today. So, to finalize everything, in my opinion, I think that trying to succeed in success has nothing to do with your age and all to do with your own courage. Thank you very much.